Good evening. How's everyone? Hopefully you're well this evening. I'm going to try running my intro video because I haven't managed to get this to work properly. So if it does work, then we'll be laughing. However, it's not going to work. It might work. Yeah, we'll give it a go. So I'll do a proper introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're going to be talking about various things, but have Olympus been stitched up insofar as their firmware updates? Roll titles. Well, good evening, everybody. Nice to see you online. 14 people online at the moment. Good to see you all here. And you'll see by the topics tonight that in one of the messages above that I've got three things I really want to look at. One's the firmware issue that Olympus or OMDS are having, OMSystems. I keep on saying Olympus. You noticed that, haven't you? Every time. Never mind. Also, I'm looking at whether I should go back to running as a pro business again. That should be a little bit interesting. And also I saw on 43rumors.com that there's been an increase in compact camera usage in the Gen Z or the Gen Z sort of people. So I've got all sorts to go through. Lots of questions coming up at the moment. So I'm going to turn to them, have a quick look through them and see what we can do. I hope you're all really doing well tonight. I'm just going to see how easy this is to see these things. Right, let's see if I can do this. Well, first of all, G0 FET, so I'm just going to call you FET. My ham radio colleague Brian, something I've used with great projects is web flash. It allows firmware to be redirected to a virtual COM port. Might have some possibilities with cameras. That's a good point. Never come across that. I'm presuming if you're using virtual COM ports, that's probably for programming ham radios. I'll maybe check that out because I've got some problems on some Motorola GP340s I need to reprogram. So that may be where it is with some geek projects. That one, yeah. So. Spell go. We've got it going. That's good. Visual Ghoul. Let's see what we've got on here. I've just ordered an OM5 as it was on offer from the OMSystem website for $699. Good. Oh, that's good price, which is the grey market price. I want to take panning shots at Imola for the F1 and rain as a concern. Let's see. Well, yeah. Do I have any recommendations on lenses? Well, if rain's a concern, I would put your money a little bit into getting a pro lens because they are if you're using a pro lens with your OM5, you've got a good weather sealed camera. The problem with putting a non-weather sealed lens onto your OM5 is the fact that it's not then weather sealed. It can get in around and get into the camera. So if you really want your camera to be safe as well as your lens, you're talking about the pro lenses. It depends where you're going to be at Imola, because I'm just going to go down to your next point on here, which is you want to take photos of other things around the circuit and the displays as well. It's a difficult one. As I say, if it's likely to be showery, Imola usually is showery. It can be so changeable there. It can shower on one part of the circuit and be gorgeous sunshine on the other. So I would probably go back to what I said a couple of weeks ago. Get yourself the, if you can afford it, the 12-100 Pro lens, the F4 Pro. You're not going to need anything less than F4. You're going to be outside most of the time, I would guess, on there. So you should have enough light on it. Don't worry about pushing your ISO up as well. Your camera will take a decent high ISO and be able to get you some fantastic shots. But that's going to give you everything from 12mm out to 100. And if that was full frame equivalent, I know I don't like full frame equivalents, but it's easier for some people to suss out, then that's giving you 24 to 200. So it's a good lens to take. It's not that heavy. It is weatherproof though, and because it has the dual IS with the camera, I think it works on the OM5. I'm sure it does. You've got a cracking camera there for handheld photography. It's not a cheap system, but at the same time, you're not going to have to replace that 12-100 f4 lens in the time you have it, because you'll just love it. So that would probably be what my suggestion would be if you can afford it. Where are we here? David Bruno, good evening, David. And good evening, everybody else. Yes, nice to see you online, David. And around the town, that's answered that one. Thomas. I'm not even going to attempt your surname. I get very embarrassed about being able to say people's names. But hello from Atlanta, Georgia, in the USA. Hello to you. What sort of time is it on there? Are you 5 or 6 hours behind us? I think you might be. I think you might be 6. I'm not too sure there. And Mobile, Alabama. Chuck Say. Again, tell me if I got that right or wrong. I apologise if I haven't. Mobile, Alabama. That's that's lyrics for a Nat King Cole song. From Route 66, I believe it's mentioned. Is Mobile mentioned in? I'm not sure if it is or not at the top of my head. But anyway, famous place. So good to see you online tonight. Now, one of the things that, and G0FET, hi to you, FET. One of the things that I'm concerned about tonight is a video I put up earlier, which is Olympus or OMSystem. And I'm saying Olympus and OMSystem in this one because it does affect all the old Olympus lenses and all the old Olympus cameras for firmware updates, but only on Mac. It sounds like Mac has done Apple have done an update on the Mac system and closed up some security holes, and it sounds as though Olympus Workspace or OM Workspace has actually been using those security ways to get in to make the system work and be able to write out the firmware. Now, this is only going to be pertinent on OMSystem and Olympus system cameras in the Micro Four Thirds line. Lumix shouldn't be bothered because Lumix does its firmware by writing to your SD card and taking the firmware off the SD card, so it shouldn't bother you. As long as you can write your SD card, you're fine. But I do feel very, very sorry for OMSystem to a degree. It seems that there's an awful lot. They've got some fantastic products, but it seems like there's an awful lot going wrong at the moment for them, and I really do feel sorry for them in that respect, because I do think on this it's been a bit of a kick in the teeth somewhat for this one, and it's left them somewhat vulnerable, because I know that reading messages online, there's been quite a few people saying that they've had problems in the middle of the firmware upload. And of course, as we all know, when you're in the middle of a firmware upload, if something goes wrong, your camera can be kaput, because you're writing straight to the camera's processor and ROM, the read-only memory in there. So have any of you had this problem? I'd love to know in the comments. Drop me something in the comments on that one. I mean, for me personally, if I was running Apple Mac, which I don't, I run Windows, but if I was running Apple Mac, I believe that you can use the OM Connect on iPads, if I'm not mistaken, and Android devices. So a couple of people made comments on that earlier to me, but it really does worry me, because I think on this one, OMSystem could have its reputation shot, and I don't think it's really their fault on that. I'm just looking, there's a whole load of messages come through, and these aren't coming up on here, so I'm going to try restarting this and see if it works, which it isn't. So I'm going to restore the chat and restart the chat, the pop-out window. Sometimes this works and sometimes it doesn't. It's early days for me on this one. But yeah, I am a little bit worried on that, because if there's an awful lot of cameras suddenly going back to OMSystem, that's going to cause some real problems, and some real problems in people's in people's confidence in the system. So that is something of a worry for me. Let's have a little look on this one. No, I think we're up to date on that. We have a few on here which I haven't seen. Yeah, FET, you're not going to see it on this probably. It seems that this has decided it wants to stop. But FET has said that something they use with All right, we've got this. Okay, Thomas, 5-hour difference to you. I can't bring these up, and I don't know why it's not wanting to work, but I'll do it as we're doing it. So 5 hours difference, so you're obviously in the East Coast. Visual Go, thanks for the suggestion. Would a Panasonic 12 to 60 work well? They're under 300. Yes, a Panasonic 12 to 60 would work well. It's a faster lens. The only problem is you're limited to about 120 mil at the long end for a full frame equivalent. So it might be a little bit short. Depends where you are on the track and how close you can get to the track. The trouble I found these days, the crowds do tend to be held rather far back, so you might find that you have to crop in quite considerably afterwards. But yeah, I mean, if it's that's the thing, it would be good because it is weather sealed. That's great for that, and it's a cracking good lens. I think it's yes, it is weather sealed, that one. G0FET, so I have a queue of OM owners wanting me to update the lens firmware on my Lumix. Yeah, you possibly will. Chuck, I don't have Panasonic bodies, but I love the Olympus lenses. I'm going to try starting these again. I'm going to just restore the chat, and we'll do it back out again. I'm going to try doing these docs because I'm getting very upset, because I'd like to be able to put some of these comments on for you to read. While that's catching up, it should restart by doing the pop out. Don't you love computers, whether they be Macs or PCs? They're a pain in the proverbial. There we are. So hopefully we should start getting some of these through in a moment. If not, I'll stop and start the service again. Right. Only have Panasonic bodies, but I love Olympus lens. I do like Olympus lens. There's something just nice about Olympus lenses, Chuck. Update. Alan says, update my OM1 Mark 1 and Mark 2 using OM Workspace on a Wintel cable. No issues whatsoever, except having to reset date and time and change it in shutter speed in C1 and C4. Yeah, I've heard that you can get your custom modes messed up. If that's the only thing, I'm not worried about that, I must admit. Visual Ghoul, I was also looking at one of the 40 to 150 Olympus lenses to complement a potential 12 to 60, but don't know if I need extra 50mm over the 12 to 100. The Pan 35 to 100 2.8. If you're going to go for the 12 to 60, I would probably go for the Pan 35 to 100 2.8 as well. If it's another great lens, and that's going to give you the reach and be weather sealed, so you've got your best on that. Again, though, by the time you spent on those, your next question is, should I stick the Olympus? I like that Olympus Pro lens. I do really think that Olympus 12 to 100 is an absolute knockout lens. And for what you're going to be paying for that used is about what you're going to be paying for those two other lenses. So I'd be very interested in still sticking to the 12 100 myself. Okay, we have to come to terms with the fact that Mac users are weirdos and life will continue to throw them curveballs. That's not nice. That's not nice. It might be funny, but it's not nice. Chuck says, VG, the 4150 2.8 is a dream lens. You'll love it. Yep, it is. It is a nice lens. Where are we? Potential business opportunity, mobile firmware updater. Brian, we can see the chat outside the video. You can see that. Is it updating though is the thing? I don't think it is. Visual Ghoul, yes, quite a possibility. Thomas, 20 watching but only 1 like. Yes, thank you, Thomas. Thanks for reminding everybody on that. The likes really are important because YouTube, it works in mysterious ways. Really does work in mysterious ways, and it's fascinating to work out why. Alan Walland, hi from Essex. Update my Mark 3 used the Motorola phone, which worked a treat. Yeah, I've heard that you're not having any problems with the the phone-based software, which is good. If that's the case, then I'm really happy, because the bring that up again, because the we've got to have some way of updating the cameras. Now, not everybody has Windows. One of the things I said in my video earlier on was to actually try and maybe take to a camera dealer close by. But as I've had pointed out on here several times in the past from people around the world, camera dealers can be 300 or 400 miles away in some parts of the States, if there's one at all. So this is some of the issues that people have, just trying to actually get to a camera dealer, or find somebody who has a Windows PC beside it. Yeah, it's frozen in the window. The whole of this Chat Ninja seems to have frozen, so I can't put the things. I'm going to stop using those in a few moments and see what I can do on it. So yeah, just ignore those comments. I'll leave this window for now. It's not wanting to play. I'll just transition this and see what happens. Yeah, so I'm just going to read off these so you'll be able to see them down the side. I'm sorry about not coming up on the thing. It's been working perfectly for the last 20 minutes before I came online, of course. Lee W. Hi, have the 25mm f1.4. What's your thoughts compared to the 20mm f1.7? Right, I'm presuming that they're both the Lumix ones on that. The 20mm 1.7 is a cracking lens. It's a very small flat lens. It's really good. It's a great focal length for day-to-day use because it's giving you a sort of 40mm equivalent. It's fast at 1.7. There's nothing wrong with the speed on it. The 1.4, it is a little bit more zoomed in. It's at 25mm. There's not a huge difference on it, but it is noticeable. But the 1.4 really is good, but it depends what you're going to be using it for. The only thing that I've really heard as a big criticism about the 20mm is it's rather slow to focus. It can be a little bit draggy compared to some of the other lenses on the market. And I know that the 25mm 1.4 is rapid. So if you can afford the 25mm 1.4, then it may be worth considering. The other thing though is as well, depends what you're taking photographs of. If I was, for me, the 25mm 1.4 would be a better lens because I do tend to do portrait shots, which I'm going to come to in a few more. It looks like we have things working, which I'm going to be coming to in a few moments about taking portrait shots. And I do tend to think that 25mm, which is effectively a 50mm equivalent, and you've got to be careful on that because it's not quite, you're still cropped in 25mm. But effectively, from a distortion point of view, it's giving you pretty much the 50mm equivalent for portrait work. That's what I would be going for, and the 1.4 is going to give me a really nice shallow depth of field. So I'd probably, if you can afford to go for the 1.4, it's also a far better built lens. FET Brian, it's frozen within the video window, but we can see it outside. Thank you very much for that. But I also have this one, so this one should be working. Yes, Visual Ghoul. I thought a smaller zoom would be less conspicuous. I will look at the single Olympus Pro so I don't have to switch around. What would you recommend around town, as the 12 to 100 is rather big and heavy? You know, the thing is that the OM5 was a nice small camera, and the 12 to 100 for the focal length you have, I don't think it's too big and too heavy. I was really quite surprised when I tested it. You'll find that if you have a look a couple of videos ago, a few videos ago, I did a decent test with my friend Paul's 12 to 100. It's still a lens which I'm not allowed to buy yet. I don't have the cash funds to buy it, I've been told. But it's the next lens I am buying. It really is, because I really can't do without one, I've decided. I think it's a really good lens to carry around. I don't find it too big and too heavy. It's not too obtrusive either. When you're carrying it around the place, it doesn't look sort of too much of a come on and look at me because I'm a photographer sort of thing. I think it's quite a reasonable lens. It's a great compromise. So I've got to just admit it's the lens that I would go for. If you weren't worried about I don't know, it's because you could go for something like the 12 to 200 from Olympus, but that's bigger still. You could go for the 14 to 140 from Lumix, but that's not weather sealed. I don't know, maybe actually in the later versions. I've got a Mark 1, so you might find the Mark 2 is, I'm not too sure. If anybody's got a later version, 14 to 140 Lumix, let us know. Let Visual Ghoul know if it is weather sealed. So if it is, that's a cracking little lens to carry around, because I've used one of mine on holidays and things, and it is good. Not a patch on the optical quality of the 12 to 100, but it is a good lens, and it's going to give you a bit of extra reach. It's going to take you out effectively to about 280mm. But I still come back to the 12-100. If you can afford it, go for it. Just going to take a short slurp, and I've just noticed Visual Ghoul. Thank you very much. A bit of support on the channel there. It really is appreciated. So let's say. I also want something for cities in the UK. Maybe combine the 12 to 100 with some primes or a compact zoom. That is a good idea. In fact, it depends what you're doing. Again, if you're going out in the rain and you want weather sealed, then that's that. But one of the things, if you talk, I still go for the 12 to 100, but if you're going for primes, they're relatively inexpensive. Something like the 17mm Olympus, the 15mm Lumix, or the 20mm Lumix, which was mentioned a little bit earlier. Great lenses. They're not weather sealed though. That is worth remembering. But they're very small, very unobtrusive. A compact zoom, again, I'd be looking for something like that 12 to 60 that you mentioned before, the Panasonic 12 to 60. It's cracking lens. Excuse me, cough. So, thank you, as I say, to Visual Ghoul. That's really appreciated for that. There is a later 14 to 142. I used to have one. It's weather sealed, but it was stolen. If you're used to it, you know exactly what it can do. I think they're a good lens. They are not the same optics as on the Pro lens, but they'll do 99% of what you want, and it's probably going to give you a bit more reach. So if you were happy enough with that, I wouldn't think twice about getting another one. FET, I need to check. I think the Mark III version of that lens is okay. Sounds like the Mark II will be as well, so if the Mark II is, then the Mark III certainly will be. 14 to 140, Chuck, thank you for your reply. 14 to 140, splash and dust resistant design according to B&H. Ideal. Go for the Mark II, go for the Mark III if you can afford it. I haven't touched the Mark III. I played with the Mark II, but I couldn't remember if it was weather sealed or not. So great, yeah. Hopefully that's answered your questions. If there's anybody else wants to keep on putting anything in, then great. My concern with the 14 to 140 was the optical quality, even though I'm whatever that is. I have been looking at the shutter settings to try and get the panning shots. The lenses give me a chance. Well, again, if you're worried about the quality, 12 to 100. I can't keep on saying it too much. It really is good. I know I preferred the 12 to 35, 2.8 over the 14 to 140. Even with the short range, that's why I was thinking of the Panasonic 12 to 60. The Panasonic 12 to 60 is still not in the league of the 12 to 35 and the 35 to 100. It's still not as good as them, so it's worth doing that. Newbie, that's what it means. Newbie, getting old, you see. Alan, I use my 12 to 100 for most of my photography. It's what you get used to. I always use the wrist strap. I always use a wrist strap as well, and hold it with the Mark III by holding the lens itself. Yeah, I tend to do that for almost everything. I use a wrist strap, and I'm really happy with them. Later 140 seems to be weather sealed from the only reference I could see in a hurry. Sorry for the ambiguity. I think we've got that answered, and thank you to the 2 or 3 people who've answered Visual Ghoul's questions. That's great. Now we've sort of covered about the firmware updates. As I say, I'm not totally sure how many this is going to really bother. I've got the cup of coffee, by the way. Do you like the design on the cup of coffee? This is done by a friend called Wendy. This is a photograph of a wall rug that she made. She's a contemporary artist and does wall rugs and 3-dimensional art and also fine art. And this is one of 3 cups. So I'm very honoured to have this. If you're watching this, Wendy, I know she's got COVID at the moment, so if you're watching it, Wendy and Robin, I've got your cup, and I'm enjoying my cup of coffee from this. The advantage that you've got with Lumix, as I say, it's the firmware is updated from the memory card. It can be a bit of a pain sometimes making sure you've got a memory card formatted on the camera and things, but it takes away all this problem of writing through an operating system on the PC, and I think that's quite an important one. I've never particularly liked the workspace, the OM workspace solution to doing the updates, but it's never been a big problem before. But I do tend to think that maybe with these problems, OMSystem, it's worth having to rewrite how they do it, because basically once you can rewrite the firmware, you can probably write the firmware to read from the card in the future. And I'm not so sure if you can actually directly read from a card. I haven't looked at that on Workspace, but I know the Lumix system just works, and it works nicely. And I'm trying to remember how I did my Canons, and I've got a feeling the Canon was done in the same thing a long time ago since I shot my Canons. Visual goal again. I didn't know 1260 was as good as it. 1235, it explains the price. I think I'll get the 1235, which was also stolen again, and aim for the 12 to 100 as well. You've got a cracking system. The 12 to 35, the only problem with the 12 to 35 is you're duplicating what you've got for what, less than a stop of speed. It may be worth what you're doing, saying about getting the 12 to 100 and some of the primes that you suggested. Firmware update via SD card suits me fine with two identical camera bodies. Yep. You've saved me from wasting money on the 12 to 60. Any thoughts on the 1235 versus the Ollie 12 to 42.8? So close. I personally prefer the 12 to 40 Olympus. I just think it's great. The 12 to 45 mm f4 is a fantastic little lens. It really is good. It's smaller, it's lighter than the 12 to 40. You don't have the manual clutch though for the manual focus, which is a bit of a shame, but it is a slightly cheaper lens on that. I think the quality, you're not going to notice the difference. I've used the 12 to 40, 12 to 45 a couple of times recently. I had a good go with it very, very recently, and I do think that if you can go for either of those, it's good. But again, the quality on the 12 to 45 is no better than the 12 to 100, in my opinion, and I'd rather have that extra reach for the extra money. But the 12 to 45 is considerably less expensive, but you then have to fill that gap between 45mm and 100, which is quite a lot to fill on there. So what do I have here? Right, I think we've done the firmware updates to death, and again, if anybody else wants to chip in with Visual Ghoul, I'll probably not read your comments out. I'll just let you read them out yourself if there's any more suggestions on there. But it's a lot of it is down to your budget. The next thing is, I did see on 43 Rumors today something which really took me by surprise, and I liked what I saw. They're reporting that the Generation Z, the Gen Z, are basically increasing buying compact cameras, Micro Four Thirds compact cameras, the EPL7 and the what was the one that they quoted? I can't remember. The GM1, the tiny little GM1. Now I referred to the fact that we probably had something to do with Micro Four Nerds increasing that market, and somebody actually picked up and said, "Oh, it's probably not that. It's more than likely what's happening on TikTok." I think there's all sorts of things happening on it, but I'm pleased to see that because I think this puts a little bit more push to what we've been saying about Lumix and Olympus. Keep it on with those compact Micro Four Thirds replaceable lens cameras. In the future, there is still a market for that, and please consider putting more R&D into that. The little EPL range is absolutely superb, and we could really do with something. We don't have a GM1 or GM5 sort of camera anymore, the real small ones, but something to replace a GX880 or the GX9, because the GX9 is discontinued and all those sort of things. They really would be great. I'd love to see a new GX9. I'd love to see a slightly bigger one, a new version of the GX8. A GX8 Mark II would be very nice. Thank you. Please listen in, Lumix. But I'm really surprised by how many people are buying into this system, and the fact that there is something of a resurgence on it. it was quoted, it was suggested that TikTok's having a huge influence on that, because again, I think a lot of the TikTokers haven't got great money. They're buying second-hand kit and they're wanting something small and neat. They're not photographers. They're quick video producers, something to do the TikTok side of things. So I think, you know, when you've got something like the GM1 is fabulous, and as I say, the little GX80 or the GX880, I think it was, which one happened to the flippy up screen? I think it was the 880 or whatever it is in the States, because it's slightly different numbers. But they were just absolutely fantastic cameras, and did really what you wanted them to do. And I do think that there is a place for them in the market. So come on, Olympus and Panasonic, let's take the bull by the horn while we can. Let's get something into that which is new, which has got lots of new features on, lots of funky features. I think the younger ones really like the funky features as well, which maybe wouldn't impress the likes of me for straight photography. But, you know, some of these fancy scenes where you've got some AI-generated effects, you know, that you have on your mobile phones to compete with that, that would probably be really interesting to that. And I think it would maybe just give a nice boost in the market. Alan just had a 1242.8 for about the month, and now mainly used for, whoops, it's gone, and using it with the Pen F, and it works beautifully. Yeah, I did a review with the 12 to 42.8 just before Christmas, so it was December 22. Borrowed Trev's lens, and it really is a superb piece of kit. If you haven't tried one before, it is worth trying. And again, as I've said in the past, if you bought an OM5, I would prefer to go towards the Olympus lenses with the Olympus, because if there is any chance of dual IS in it, then you've got that, and it really does make a difference. Again, when you look at that 12 to 100 review that I did, the thing which amazed me more than anything else was just how stable it was with the IBIS, with the dual IBIS on that. It was probably one of the most impressive lenses I've used on my camera. And I was using an EM1 Mark II, so the OM5 it should be an improvement on that. The TikTok craze and YouTubers bigging up the smaller cameras have inflated the EM5 Mark II as well. Yeah, they have. Maybe the metal build too. EM5 Mark II, yes, of course, because that is still metal build and not the plastic. It's worth more than double what I paid a year ago for one I didn't keep. Yeah, and the little EM5 Mark II is a great little camera. It really was. I think it was still 16 megapixel, if I'm not mistaken. But again, you know, TikTokers aren't that bothered about that, I don't think. I think they just want to have something which will create content and be small and neat and easy. They can throw around and do stuff with. So I think it's good. GX800 and 880, yeah, I thought that was the one that it was. Yep. I think it's the 800 in the States and the 880 over here or something. I think they use both numbers for the same camera. FET, I think that some effects might just become out of date. Phones have a far shorter life cycle than one might expect from a camera, so the phone is likely to have more computing power. Very true, very true. But I think the TikTokers will probably throw cameras away just as quickly and want to update. So if we can keep on making something which is funky and having a little bit of a fun factor to it. Fun? Are we allowed to have fun as photographers? Yeah, I think if they have a bit of a fun factor, maybe that throwaway thing might not be too much of a problem. And of course, it's not too difficult for a camera manufacturer to update a lot of the software and things. It's the hardware which is the hard thing to do. So I don't know, it might just be the very thing that we need. That's why I bought the OM5 new, figured out and made whole value despite the plastic build. Yeah, the plastic build isn't actually too bad. I don't know what you think of it, but I think the plastic build isn't too bad. I know there's been problems with people complaining about the plastic on the bottom cracking where the tripod mount is. I believe that you can get that little piece replaced fairly easily though. But yeah, the OM5 is great. I borrowed Trev's EM5 Mark III again around about December 2022 and did a quick review on that, and I was really impressed. That was plastic build, very similar to the OM5. So yeah, and I think the OM5 will hold its value. It's a good camera. It really is a good camera. So you couldn't handle the EM5 II, but you could handle a GX9 fine. Anyone have suggestions on grips that don't add much weight? No idea. I'll leave the floor open to the comments on that one. Same one twice. So yeah, what would you like to see? Again, leave me something on here. What would you like to see insofar as compact cameras, or the updated compact cameras? Is it, you know, we've talked about the Pen F2 to death, and probably the G9 Mark II to death as well. But is there something you'd like to see? Is there something like the little GX800, GX880 that you would think would be a good selling camera? And what would be needed on that camera now? Drop us something, we'll have a little discussion on that as well. OM5 III and OM5 can take the same grips. Yes, they can, and I don't think you can get a battery grip for them. I may be mistaken on that one. I'd like to be mistaken. I don't know if you can get an official Olympus battery grip on the OM5 Mark III and OM5. I do like battery grips, so I don't know if you can get one of those on that one. So we've had 2 subjects at the moment, the firmware, which again, if you want to, 3 subjects actually, because we've had Visual Ghoul's discussion on his lenses, which has really been interesting, so thank you for that. And I'm speaking too quickly. I'm going to have to slow down. People can't understand my Geordie accent sometimes, and when I get a little bit animated, I do find I speak too quickly, and that throws people off, so my apologies on that one. Yeah, the third thing, fourth, Ghouls, lenses, firmware, yeah, fourth thing, is basically I'm considering going back to running a photography business again as a professional photographer. And I'm just interested on your thoughts as to whether the market's there or not. Now, I will tell you that I'm going to be very specific. I'm going to be doing all headshot portraits, or head and torso portraits, very, very little other than that, and I'm going to be doing them for one-off shoots for people. But I decided that I've missed being professional, as in doing it for money, taking photographs for money and doing organized shoots. I've missed that this last few years since I closed down just as COVID hit, and I'm just wondering what your thoughts are to it. Basically, I want to bring down some of the gear that I have. My ideal system for that is going to be either my G9 or my OM5 Mark II. I may go a little bit higher than the OM5 Mark II. I may consider upgrading, but I'm really not that bothered. It has to be, the camera I use has to be able to tether to a PC, so it can be seen on the screen beside it. And I'm mainly going to be using prime lenses for what I shoot. It's going to be studio-based shooting only, but it's going to be I say studio-based. It's going to be pop-up studio in people's houses. I'm going to be going out to them to do portraits. And I'm also going to be doing a very set sort of thing. It's going to be, I'm going to be going around an awful lot of military veterans to take good portrait shots of them with maybe their beret on and their medals and regalia, and be able to present them with a photograph back. So I'm looking at probably the 45mm, maybe the 30mm Sigma, that out, the 45mm Olympus, 30mm Sigma, and the 25mm f1.8 Olympus. I don't need silly small bokeh. Lights wise, I'm going to be using mainly speed lights because I want it small and light to go out there, or I'm going to be taking out the fantastic little lights I've been getting recently from Zion, which are the CX100, the CX, the Molus G60, and the little M20C. Those lights I've really got to love. I'm really enjoying using them, but I'm using them with the adapter to put them on the Bones mount. So what would you suggest or not? Do you think there's a market out there for photography still, or is the photography market dying? I'm not intending going out and doing big commercial shoots anymore. I've had enough of commercial shoots. It's going to be small, low key. And is it something you do already? Let me know in the comments. I'll be interested in those. Let's see what's going on here. And it looks as though this is frozen again. It certainly has. So I'm going to try stopping that and starting it. I am so annoyed with what's going on with this tonight. So I'm going to try restarting the dock. I'm not surprised that we have problems insofar as firmware not updating when you can't even get these things to go on to that. I can't even switch this one off anymore. So it's just going to have to stay on there. Sorry, Visual Ghoul, your question is going to be up there for ages. Okay, FET, we're going back onto the thing with the small cameras. You may be right, something I could shift cameras fast for a year or two, maybe would be more an open source firmware. Could be interesting. There's already some Android based Micro Four Thirds system cameras. Could be worth maybe going down the Android route or something like that. Very interesting on there. Visual Ghoul, the GX10, GX9 with a mic jack. Oh yes, please, the GX9 with a mic jack, weather sealing, and a usable viewfinder, and a GX1000 without the viewfinder and IBIS. What an idea! GX1000, quite like that. Good idea. How bad is the weather outside? Weather outside here, not bad at all. Although it was snowing earlier on. I was looking at the G9 before I saw the OM5 deal. They're going for £350 on eBay. I know they are incredibly cheap for what's still a highly effective professional camera. Really is interesting to see how inexpensive they are at the moment. Looks like we've got that back working. I'll come back to that in a second. FET, Brian, fully understand the crisis of not work and the lack of direction. Yeah, it's awful. Okay, Alan Wallen, trouble is these days everyone thinks they are a professional. Yeah, I've discussed professional in the past on this. I have my set sort of things on professional. Professionals aren't necessarily good photographers, in my opinion. These are all my opinions, but to me, somebody who's a professional photographer isn't necessarily a good photographer. I bow down to the landscape photographers I see around me. There are far better landscape photographers. There are far better macro photographers. There's all sorts of niches. To me, professionalism is multifaceted. One, you're earning money from it. In other words, you're doing paid work for a client. And the professionalism for me is having the right tools to do the job, turning up on time or before, making sure that you can fulfill all the promises that you make. You can deliver what you say you'll deliver to a standard you say you'll deliver it to. And that pretty much is what I consider to be professional. As I say, I'm going to be very limited. I don't do weddings. I detest weddings. I've done weddings before. I was actually reasonably okay at weddings, but I don't like them. I've been professional for many years in the past, and to me, the professional side of what I did was because I was doing everything I've just said a few moments ago. It doesn't mean to say I can do fantastic photos across the board, but it does mean to say that my attitude was what I consider right. My customer relations are what I consider right, and I was earning money from it. So yeah, it's a really good point, Alan. And to be honest, being professional as a photographer doesn't really impress me. But it is something which I'm considering because it's an income stream, and I've been away from it for a while. I've done a few different roles as a professional photographer. I was media officer for a couple of organisations where I was doing press photography, but tied to the organisation. So it was part of the marketing team of those organisations. So that was a particular type of photography, nothing to do with normal portraits or commercial stuff, but a lot of it was event photography, and a lot of it was covering events inside and out, and making sure that I got my photographs to the right people, the editor of the right newspapers or websites or whatever, in a timely manner. That's also professionalism, making sure you do it in a timely manner. When I set myself up for the business this time, I was doing high volume photography, school photography and things like that. Lots of people, small margins, but really tight deadlines as well. When I finished from that, I started going on to more concentrated portrait work, which I really enjoy. I enjoy doing a one-to-one with people, smaller numbers of people, or even one-to-one. And also, at the time, I was doing some commercial works where I was doing things for websites and all sorts. So that's what I was good at, but not necessarily good at much else, I'll be honest. Tobias. Hello everybody, greetings from Germany. Hello Germany. Maybe a bit late in the day to say Guten Tag, but yeah, I think it's probably too late in the day to say that. Guten Nacht. I would like to see a GX900 with 20 megapixels, weather sealing and IBIS. Yeah, sounds good. So it'll be the smaller one rather than a smaller GX9. It'll be more the GX800 upgraded. Yep, I totally agree with that one. Miguel. Hi Miguel. Good to see you online. Really nice to see you. And where are you from? Where do you hail from? And what time is it where you're from? I'm really interested. I love the fact that sitting here in my little back room in my house with my wife watching TV next door, I'm able to have online conversations with people throughout all places in the world in real time. I think this is absolutely fabulous. It really does amaze me. FAT, product photography, might have some potential. It might. It's not something that I'm wanting to do. As I say, I've done some product photography. That's what I consider as commercial photography. I've done everything on that from great big drying rigs which are the size of an aircraft hangar, which fit into a building the size of an aircraft hangar, which had no electric lights inside, had no lighting whatsoever. That was interesting. All the way down to doing dentures, false teeth. That was an interesting one as well. How do you make them shine? I ended up using black acetate, black perspex. And black perspex, when you get the right angle and the right light on it, looks like a beautiful silvered mirror. It's really interesting to use. Silver mirrors tend not to be so good, but black perspex was fabulous. So I sort of moved away from that. I like shooting people. I like, as I'm doing a photograph, to have that face-to-face involvement. Yvonne Tarry, I think your idea is wonderful. We are losing the veterans every day. Thank you. Is that a compliment or insult? The veterans. Yeah. Well, I'm ex-forces myself. I certainly come into the veterans category, but it's not a new idea. I've seen somebody else doing it, and I think I could do it in a slightly different way. But my way to do it would be to make some income for myself, but also to get some support so that the person I'm taking a photograph of, the veteran I'm taking a photograph of, won't pay for it. They will be presented with a nice big sort of a big framed photograph, which they wouldn't pay for. They literally have to do the sitting, and hopefully I would get some support and some sponsorship to be able to pay for it on that, because I think it's a little bit of payback, if you like. So I'm quite keen on that. I think there would be a big venue for this. We would need to get the word out to the families. Yeah, there's a few organisations in the UK. There's a Royal British Legion. You've got Help for Heroes. You've got all sorts of things. And veterans, of course, can be anybody who's been as a full-time person in the armed forces for more than a day or two. So you know it's there, but. So it's not necessarily older ones to be veterans, but certainly ex-forces. And I think that this is what I want to do, is also, as we do get some of the ones who are getting more senior in age, this is something which can be left as a legacy for their families as well. So yeah, I think it's something that's interesting me. The G9 is awesome camera still. It is, absolutely. I have one and gravitate to it much. I have the GH5, good camera. GH6, excellent camera. And the S5, haven't played with one, did consider one a little while ago. Really looks nice with the L-mount lenses. Have more fun with the G9 for some reason. The AF is not too bad either. It gets a serious slagging off for its autofocus, and I think very unfairly at times, because I really have very little problems with that. I know on video it can hunt a little bit, but I believe that's been really fixed in a lot of the firmware updates. So, firmware's up to version 2.7 now, I think, on that, and there's been some huge increases in the firmware abilities, especially for video. So no, I totally agree with you, Chuck. I think the G9 is an awesome camera, and I use mine a lot for portrait work. It's bigger and heavy compared to my Olympus and the other cameras I've got Micro Four Thirds wise. You do have the advantage of the smaller lenses for Micro Four Thirds, but it is quite a big, heavy camera still. But when you're doing something in the studio, it's very stable, it's very easy, it's very handy. So yeah, I think it's a cracking camera, and for the prices for that they're going for. Remember, this was the top of the range camera when it came out for Lumix. I think about 2016, 17, something like 17, I think it was, end of 17, and we've had a couple of major firmware updates on it, which effectively made it a new camera each time. It's like being given a free new camera, which felt like the old one, but had some fantastic features which you would have considered buying a Mark II or a Mark III version. So it really has kept up with the times well. Still on my coffee. Be a while before I trust Panasonic with autofocus, even on the new cameras. As I say, I don't really have too much problems with the autofocus. Some people do, and I'm not going to argue with them on that. If it's not good for you, then it's not good for you. But I know what you mean. Any business idea is only good if you go for it. Absolutely true. And I'm seriously thinking about going for it. I'm a little bit put off on this because I'd put all my eggs into the basket. I have two basic businesses. I'm an entertainer and I'm a photographer. And they're the two businesses I had until March 2020. And I'd put my eggs into both of those businesses, into both of those baskets. And both of them within 3 days disappeared. And I've become rather nervous about it. I became disenfranchised with photography. I became disenfranchised with both. But what happened is the music, I really got depressed because I wasn't out with audiences. I love communicating with an audience. I love being on stage and singing to people. I love presenting what I do on stage. And I sing a great varied amount. And I used to sit in car parks in where the coffee shops were, because you couldn't go into the coffee shops, the Costas and the Starbucks and things like that. Other brands are available, Nero. I think I've mentioned most of the ones that I usually go in. But you could go through the drive-throughs, and although we couldn't go out unless our work prohibited us from staying in the house to do it, if you had to go out and do your work, then that was it. Well, I couldn't sing in the house. I'm too loud to sing in the house, and we have neighbours, so I had to go out. So I spent a lot of my time during lockdown sitting in a Costa Coffee car park around the corner from in fact the very car park where I do a lot of my videos in the car still. But I'd be singing my heart out and rehearsing, because I knew if I didn't do that, my voice was gonna lose some of its abilities. But the photography, there was no way I could do what I was doing, which was the portrait work. I couldn't get near people. I couldn't get near the places I was doing for the commercial work. And with a great deal of reluctance, I had to close the business down. I had more orders outstanding for the year 2020 than I'd had in the previous 2 or 3 years together. It was really on an upward climb. And then within a period of 3 days, it was gone. And it never recovered. I lost my faith. I lost my confidence in it. And that was it. I'm beginning to get to the point of thinking, well, I'm still young enough and fit enough to do it. I still have the abilities. I still have the technical nous. Maybe I need to go off and do it. So yes, I do think any business idea is only good if you go for it. So thank you for that, Chuck. You're absolutely right. Visual Ghoul, the S5 handles really nicely. Yeah, I'm sure it does. It looks a fabulous camera, and of course, basically, the S5 II and the G9 II are effectively the same body. So from that point of view, it should be very nicely integrated into the Lumix system with that. Like the video. Yeah, I'm presuming on about the camera. Yeah, I think the video on this is absolutely superb. I'm open to a few more questions. I'm going to throw the floor open now to anybody who's got any questions that they want to ask on here. I think we've gone through quite a few on there already. So that's where we are. How long have I been on? It's one of those sort of things. I know I've been on a while because my coffee's getting cold. Hang on a second. What time is it? We've been on almost an hour, so it's good. G9 is missing the display. I don't know how suitable it is for pros. The display, I presume you're on about the top display. I bought the G9 partially because it had that top display. I'd been used to them on Canon. And I think that swayed me towards buying that, because that's what professional cameras have needed. I use it so infrequently, and because the light on it, you can't control how long the backlight is on. Whenever I've used it, it's been too dark to really see that display well. So I found that I was using the top display less and less and less, and because it's mirrorless. Remember, I'd come from DSLR Canons to the mirrorless system, where of course you're having to move your eye around the place. You don't have all the visual displays inside. And I did find that once I went on the Micro Four Thirds system with a mirrorless system, I rarely looked at the top. And I mean, my G9 sitting through next door was doing some pop-up studio work in my back room. Because again, as I say, I'm thinking about taking this up again. I wanted to get myself de-rusted. The problem I have is finding models at the moment to sit for me. But I wanted to get that together with using my strobe lights and things. And I just don't use that top display. I tend to use everything on the back. So I don't think it's a big issue anymore. But again, the G9 Mark II just doesn't have it. I think you're saying hit the like button. Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you, FET. Yes, please hit the like button. And if you're not subscribing, please subscribe. It's absolutely free to subscribe. All it does is it just puts it into your subscription group, and you don't even know it's there unless you hit the little bell, the notification bell, and tick all. Then you're going to get told every time I've got a new video come up. So it's probably worth it on that. But yeah, if you can do that, it really does help YouTube spread the videos far and wide. And if you are, if you're not one of my Patreon patrons, if you have a look at the link below this, the details below this, you'll find that there's a thing for my Patreon patrons, because I'm going to be doing a little series about pop-up studio flash for strobes, for studio strobes, speed lights, and continuous lighting soon, and they'll be seeing it before it ever comes out on YouTube. So if you're interested in those sort of things, my basic setup, what I do for the setup, and how I take some of the photographs, it's probably worth getting on my Patreon on the higher level, because you'll see those videos first. And also, if you just like to give a bit of support, then either super thanks, or if you want to buy me a coffee, there's a link in that bottom bit as well. Chuck, 63 minutes. Yes, it's time flies when you're chatting to people. I really enjoy this, because I just seem to talk about cameras and pick up what people say, and I enjoy the fact that you put things on and I have to respond to it, and the time just flies past. But our old coffee is maybe not the best. It is still slightly warm, but yeah, 63 minutes. The OM1 also has a better viewfinder. OM1 Mark II has a better viewfinder. Yeah, my big problem with the G9 Mark I is the viewfinder. It's fabulous in some ways, because you can alter the angle of view. So if you're a glasses wearer, you can really get it to be easy on the eye on that. I've never felt comfortable with it. It always seems to be slightly out of focus, even when you've got the diopter just set perfect. It always seems to be a bit soft, and it's caused me to lose confidence a few times. Yet when I've seen the results afterwards, they've been crystal clear. But the OM1 Mark II, I haven't. Yes, I did use the OM1 Mark II. I tried it in Wilkinson's cameras, and yes, I was really impressed with it, remembering back. I was going to say the OM1 is great, but they're a different style of viewfinder. I do like my Olympus EM1 Mark II viewfinder. It's older, but it does work really well. So yeah, but it is a superb viewfinder on the OM1 Mark II. Do you like the G9 Mark II image better than the G9? The GH6 takes better photos, but I'm a video guy. I've played with the G9 Mark II. I didn't get the chance to analyze photographs from it. They looked superb, but they looked superb on what I was looking through. They certainly won't be worse than the G9 Mark I, and the G9 Mark I photographs is fabulous. The image on the viewfinder, I think, is better on the G9 Mark II. So if it's a viewfinder you're on about, yes, I did feel a lot more confident with that. I haven't really played with the GH6. When I'm shooting video with the G9, I tend not to use a viewfinder itself. I tend to use the rear screen, which again I'm fairly comfortable with. The GH6 I haven't really looked at properly. I've seen it in the shop. I haven't had a good play with it, but it is a fabulous camera. And if you listen to Emily on Making 4 Nerds, she has had a GH6 for quite a while, and she adores it. So I tend to bow to her knowledge. She's great. If she says it's good, it's probably really good. Hello, Lauren. Good to see you. Now, last time I was online, Lauren told us about looking out for her website. I had a little look at the updated website. If you haven't seen her website, by the way, please look up Lauren's name on the internet and just go and have a look. She's got some stunning photographs on there, and I'm really, I really was impressed with that. I'd seen it a little while ago, but I'd forgotten to look for a while. And then when we mentioned the last live stream, it was pushed quite hard on there, and well worth being pushed hard because they are absolutely superb. So, gone off. Where we get it back on? Lauren, GIP, which bought Olympus, is now buying Toshiba. Is it? GIP seem to be one of these companies who basically just a big umbrella company to buy and own assets. Toshiba, though, I would have thought would have been far bigger than that. So interesting. And it also makes us wonder when people go on about the fact that there isn't the money for R&D. If a company can go and buy Toshiba, they're not short on cash. Not in my book. So, yeah, good to see you, Lauren. Nice to see you online again. Sean Lonsdale from Lincolnshire, Brian. Oh, right. Just sent my OM1 for repair. Yes, mate. Update to 1.6 failure. Is that the OM1 or the OM1 Mark II? I'm presuming the OM1 because you said that. I hope it gets fixed. I really do. Lovely county, Lincolnshire. You've got this wonderfully flat county with a huge hill in the middle and a fantastic cathedral on top of it. And of course, being a former RAF myself, it's the home of the Royal Air Force, Lincolnshire. So a nice place to be. Good to see you. I hope everything really goes well for you on getting that done. I hope it doesn't take too long for the turnaround on it. I presume you uploaded on a Mac. Let me know how you did upload it, if you would. I'm really interested to find out what's going on with that. So if you were using a Mac for the update, let me know. Let me know in the comments here as to what happened just before it failed. It'd be very interesting for other people. As I say, I'm not a Mac user, so I shouldn't have the problem, and I don't have an OM1 either. But it'd be interesting to know what the actual problem was on that. Visual Ghoul just meant versus the G9 II because they recycled the S5 body. Yeah. They did recycle the S5 body. I'm trying to think what was the comment which led to that. Versus the G9 II. I'll be honest, I played with the G9 II a little bit, not much. I played with the OM1 Mark II in the shop a little bit. I couldn't think of particular differences on it. I couldn't tell you which one was worse or better. They didn't stand out as being bad. Oh, that's nice. Even if it is cold. And I think for me, if something is bad, it usually stands out and it makes you think, oh, hang on, I don't like that, fairly quickly. I don't tend to find there's too much these days which sneaks itself on you that there's problems. So no, neither struck me as being particularly bad. I know the G9 Mark II is based on the S5 Mark II, and again, people I've talked to with the S5 Mark II love it. So, Carl Richards, have you got the G9 set to 120 frames a second for the viewfinder, as it does degrade its image quality? I've tried it on all the settings on it. You're right, it does degrade its image quality, but it does give you a better refresh rate. Yeah, I tend to have it on a slower refresh rate. I think it's 60. I can't remember what it is. I think it's 60. But no, I have tried it on all of them, and again, even on that, I think it's just confidence. There's something, and it may not even be so bad now with updates. I don't know, but there's just a confidence thing. You know, when you've lost confidence in something, it takes a lot to rebuild it. Lauren, is GIP's heart in photography, or was the buyout simply a bargain of a buyout? Will they milk and dump the concern? I really don't know. I think they have a very widespread portfolio of companies, all electronics companies as far as I know. I don't necessarily know if the overall umbrella company is particularly interested in photography. However, I think photography, I think the photographic side of things is probably really beneficial for the other brands that they have, and it does integrate very nicely into that. I still do believe that the high level management at OMSystem and maybe the low level at the umbrella company, the GIP, do have an interest in photography. I do believe that that interest is there and is strong, and well, I've got to just keep that hope that that's the case. Because I think that the OMSystem, or what was Olympus brand, is still pertinent. I still think it's superb equipment, and I'd be very, very upset if it disappeared. Lauren, thanks for the kind words, Brian. Say what I see. I say what I see, and I was really impressed with what you had. So it's my pleasure to give the kind words, but they are said honestly. So if you haven't checked the site out, please go and check it. 12 to 100 is under £800 grey market. I didn't realise. Yeah, it's if you're willing to buy grey market, remember you don't have on the grey market, you don't have your ability to necessarily have repairs done on things, and that is an issue with any goods that you buy. Luckily, they do tend to be reliable on those. The problem on Olympus lenses, insofar as the warranty, isn't a problem. It's a problem when it comes to warranty if you've bought grey market goods. Most of the Olympus lenses, if you drop the camera, they have a deliberate weak point, which is as the lens mount and the lens itself come together, where they're tied together, and it's to protect your camera. It becomes a weak point, so if you drop it, it will break at that point. They're easy to fix. You send it to OMSystem and they get them fixed. The 12 to 40 is renowned for this. It is a deliberate ploy on their part, insofar as it does mean that your camera doesn't get damaged, the mount doesn't get damaged, the main part of the mount, but there is a deliberate weak point and it will come apart, and the lens needs to be sent back to get that fixed. It's a straightforward fix for them, and it's a well-known sort of thing on there. The problem with that is, if you don't have the warranty, then it becomes very expensive if they'll even touch it. So that's the problem on grey market. You bought a grey market camera, you know what the score is on that one. But yeah, the 12 to 100 from a grey market at £800, under £800, really is very good. The alternate is to buy a like new 12 to 100 from somewhere like MPB, which will probably be a similar sort of price. You've got 6 months warranty from them, and you've also got the ability to send it back to System to get any repairs done. Sean Lonsdale, OM1 Mark 1, and yes, on a Mac. Yeah, I'm sorry, mate. I am really sorry for you, because it must be quite distressing when you just spent a lot of money on a really good camera and this has happened. As I said, I do feel sorry for OMSystem, because I think there's going to be an awful lot of cameras flooding back in, and I don't necessarily believe it's been their fault. I think, you know, they inherited the OM workspace and tweaked it up a little bit from Olympus, but I was never super happy with that way of updating firmware in the first place. But if it had been working, why reinvent the wheel? And of course, when you port these things between platforms, between Windows and Mac and things, there are always going to be a few little issues. And if it is using some sort of backdoor to do a direct write for something, then the operating system authors are within their rights to close those back doors, because it's not in the published SDKs, the knowledge base. So that's what's happened with OMSystem. I'm really sorry for them, but I'm more sorry for the people like yourself who've used cameras out of action for a while. You've got that worry as to whether it comes back properly or not, and how you get it back. So again, drop us a text on one of the future videos if you would, and just let us know how you get on. It'd be good to know that you do get it back properly. Screen went black, and that was that. Yep. Doesn't surprise me. It sounds, from what I've heard, it sounds about right for what I'd expect. Lauren, Lumix should have pushed the GX9 as an X100V competitor. Really, with the Lumix like a 15mm, quite a tool. Yeah, the only thing I'd say against that is the GX9 was starting to get long in the tooth itself. We really needed a replacement for GX9, a GX9 Mark II or a GX10, if there hasn't been one already, with a few more of the features. But again, that the X100V, we discussed this in the last video, the last live stream that we did. You can't get one, and the price of them is horrendous, and you can't get the previous models, because the previous models on the second-hand market, the prices are horrendous for a used camera. It really is hitting that niche, and I think we discussed it last time at length about the fact that maybe Micro Four Thirds has missed the boat on this one. But yeah, I do feel that a GX9 Mark II with a few extra whistles and bells on the weather sealing, the proper mic input would knock the X100 out of the market. But the thing is that the X100 it's created a little bit of a market, so to dislodge that is going to be difficult now, even with new camera releases from Lumix or Olympus. I'm getting to the end of this podcast. This podcast is a live stream. Thank you very much for everybody who's been on tonight. I'm still going to keep on taking a few comments for a while. I'm going to have about 5 more minutes on, because I'm running out of things to say, and it's getting beyond my bedtime. I'm getting old, you know. It's all right for you youngsters, but I'm getting a little bit on the old side. I'm in my mid-20s now. I know I don't look it. I know I don't look the age. I look about twice the age that I really am, but that's not the point. I'm getting to the point where I'm maybe needing my beauty sleep, but I'll take another 5 or 10 minutes worth of questions on here. If you've got any questions to throw on, please throw them on now. Any comments to make on what we've already discussed, which is firmware updates, Gen Z on the compact cameras, anything to do with what Visual Guru was saying about lenses for taking for general photography, and motor racing panning shots. Panning shots actually is interesting, because nobody seems to talk about panning anymore, getting that speed related background, using a slow shutter speed and panning around with it. It used to be very much an in style when I used to take photographs in the mid-80s at Donington Park of the motorcycle racing, when the British Motorcycle Grand Prix used to be held at Donington, with people like Kevin Schwantz, Wayne Gardner was, and all those sort of names from that period. Fabulous names. Fabulous riders, I should say. The names were okay. Yeah, the names were. They were just the sort of thing that I needed to remember what the riding was like. Yeah. But I used to go down there with my Olympus OM1, my proper Olympus OM1, wherever it is. When I don't have I've got cables wrapped around it. Don't get cables wrapped around your camera. OM1. That's an OM1. Baby, it's going to fall on the floor if I'm not careful. Sit. Yeah, I used to go down and used to do panning shots. It was always a nice style of photography, and it seems to have disappeared off the streets now. So yeah, so I used to go down there. But if there's any more comments about what Gould should use for his lenses, for his OM5, please put another comment down. And also anything about going back to being a pro photographer, doing pop-up studio work in people's houses and doing the photographs of the veterans. I think I'm definitely going to do it. I've got everything. I've been spending the last fortnight trying to get myself back together and trying to work out which is the ideal kit to be able to run and gun and do the best shots I can. Oh, hang on, we didn't do that one. So OMSystem will repair my OMSystem bought body and lens, even with a used lens, if bought from the UK. Right. Is that a question? Okay, you've got a question mark at the end. Is that a statement or a question? I'm not sure if they will. If it's a statement, I'll take your word that it will. If it's a question, I'm not totally sure that they will repair your OMSystem board body and lens. Used lens would be fine. The used lens would do it if it was bought if it was bought from a UK source. But I'm not totally sure on them. If there's anybody has any dealings with this in the past, please stick something up, because I'd be interested to know on that one. GG Wildlife, regarding the Mac, why can't these people use the OI Share app? I think the problem is using the OI Share app isn't the normal way to do it for most of these people if they're using Macs. And by the time they've realised that there's an issue to use that, the damage has been done. There's a few people said about using the OI Share app. I've never done it. I've always used the sort of the straightforward normal app on mine, and yeah, I wouldn't have thought of using the OI Share app previously to that. It may work, it may not, but if it's not thoughts. Put your thoughts down. Chuck, great seeing you live for once. Have a great evening. Thank you, Chuck. You have a great evening too. I don't know if you stayed on for until the absolute end of this one, but it's really nice to see you online. On the thing of speaking online as well, I did say in the previous video, earlier on, I'm not planning on doing live streams every week. My lifestyle is all over the place, and if I'm doing I do teaching quite often. My wife works shifts, so if she's sleeping off at strange times, then I try not to do this because it would disturb her. So I can't do them regularly. What I won't do is I won't do a live stream on a Sunday. I did some at the end of last year on Sundays, because Rob Trek does a fabulous live stream, which is mid-afternoon UK time. And I love what Rob Trek does. He's so laid back, so laconic, and just an absolute mine of information when it comes to cameras and camera systems, especially the Micro Four Thirds. And there's no way in the world that I would want to tread on his toes on that. And even if I was to do it at a different time on the Sunday, a lot of people who will watch Rob's video, Rob's live stream, are also the people who come on my live stream here as well. And by the time you get 3 or 4 hours of live stream on the same day, I think you've probably been live streamed and Micro Four Thirded out. So I certainly won't be doing it on the Sunday. The other one is on the Thursday, again Thursday afternoon UK time, and that is Robin Wong. Again, a fabulous live stream that he does. Totally different. I mean, it's basically doing what I'm doing here, but a totally different feel between the two of those. Now, I know there's a different feel to mine as well. And again, where Rob is that laconic, laid-back guy, Robin is just a powerhouse of enthusiasm and things. Another absolute stalwart when it comes to knowledge of cameras and photography. And again, I won't be doing it on the same day as Robin, because they are just absolutely fantastic. So I'm probably, if I'm going to be doing live streams, it's probably going to be on Tuesday nights, but it won't be every week. It won't be a regular slot, so just keep on watching for the coming out, but it will be Tuesdays if I do them. But yes, thank you very much, Chuck. Good to see you on the live stream tonight. Thank you very much for coming and joining in and being part of the community, and you have a great evening yourself. Visual Ghoul. George Holden was pushing the OM10 with a 70mm 1.0 as an alternative than applying a film editing software. The OM10 is tiny. The OM10 is a cracking. Depends on which model. I actually like the OM10 Mark II still. I think the OM10 Mark II is probably the most enjoyable of the variants of the OM10 to use, and that's 17mm 1.8 lens. I use one a lot. I love the lens. I know that some of my compatriots online don't like it so much, but I just think it's a cracking lens. I love the field of view on it. I think it's just nice, especially if you're going around just casual photography. It's not too close, it's not too far away. It's just a really nice lens, and it's fast enough at f1.8. But yes, certainly that EM10 Mark II especially, not very expensive, tiny camera, tiny with that 17mm lens on the front, and superb quality. You get some fantastic photographs out of that. Lauren, it's interesting how many new Leica YouTubers have hit the scene. I know there's now buying Leica. You know, I sold my and bought a Leica. I wonder if this is sponsored. You never know. It's not sponsored for Leica from me. If Leica's watching, like one. I do like a cameras. There's something about the style and the build quality and things. So yes, yeah, there's been a big push. I think Leica have really done a lot of marketing recently, a lot of really good marketing to get the cameras out there and get them accepted. And again, we've gone through this vintage style revolution. You were just saying about yourself about the X100V, and we've said about you know, I've talked at length about the GX8 with the semi-rangefinder type look and feel, and the GX9 very similar to that but smaller. And I think Leica, they haven't really varied much from what they've done styling wise for some time, but it's gone, like most fashion things, it's gone full circle, and what went out of fashion for a long time is coming back in. I think Leica's time with the vintage cameras, you know, the Nikon, is it the FC? I can't remember that is, but the vintage type looking camera for that, the small Sony camera, which again is vintage looking. I think that they're very in at the moment. I think it's very fashionable, and I think Leica are riding the crest of a wave on that one. So, but if you're watching Leica and you would like somebody to review one of your cameras, I'm open to it. Thank you. I haven't tried a Leica camera properly. I've tried Lumix Leica stuff, but I've never tried a Leica camera properly. I'm open to it. Get in touch. 4 Counties Photography at outlook.com. That's what it was. 4 Counties Photography at outlook.com. Leica, get in touch. Visual Ghoul. It was a question because you said about buying a lens from MPB, and I've already ordered the body direct from OMSystem. Yeah, well, if it's coming from MPB do a 6-month warranty on all those lenses. This isn't sponsored by MPB. Again, MPB, if you'd like to sponsor it, I mention you so many times. I've had so much gear from you at mpb.com. If you want to sponsor the videos, again, I'm open to it. Please get in touch. 4 Counties Photography at outlook.com. Yeah, they do a 6-month warranty themselves, and I've used their warranty on one of my cameras in the past, and really good, very, very efficient from them. And they've got the right people and the right things to get to the right people to get it fixed properly. If you do a grey import through MPB, they pick up on it because they do serial number checks when you put it in. So they tend to steer away from grey import, and certainly it would come at the bottom price range on that one. But yes, you still have a warranty for anything you buy from them used. So from that, it's pretty good. If you're putting your lens onto a grey input camera, so long as it's the same thing, they're never going to know the difference. You tell them you're using an OM5, and it's an OM5 as far as they're concerned. And grey import OM5s are still OM5s. It's just there's contractual reasons, and there's import duty reasons, all sorts of things as to why they don't touch them. But obviously they didn't make their profit through it either. But basically, you've got an OM5. It is an OM5. It's the same OM5 as anywhere else. The only problem with some of the grey imports, you get slightly difference on the menus. I believe that if you buy a Japanese import, it won't have the English language in the menus. Robin is great. He knows his camera lenses inside out, and even links videos for a lot of questions too. He does. It's I enjoy watching all the YouTubers. Actually, I enjoy watching most of the main Micro Four Thirds YouTubers because I learn something from them. You're never too old to learn. I said about going professional again and things before. Even if you're professional, you learn. You learn every time you shoot. And when you're watching some of these people and you listen to what they say, and you do listen and you do watch, they've got something that they've experienced which you never have, and I think they're absolutely superb. Robin is just great, but it's also not just the knowledge that he has, it's the way he imparts it. He is just he's like Emily. He's just fun to listen to and fun to watch and enthusiastic and encouraging. So yeah, absolutely GG Wildlife. I think it's great. Visual Ghoul, everyone give a like to this live stream. Oh, thank you Visual Ghoul. Yeah, if you would, that's great, but no, thank you. Hopefully it's been useful to people like yourself and a few others. Pana 50mm OM7. Oh, don't do this. Personally, I would go for the Olympus 17mm f1.8. The 50mm 1.5 from Panasonic is really good lens. Really good lens. I think it's a little touch bigger than the the 17mm. But again, it's just that nice. I mean, the equivalent, it's the difference between a 30 and a 34mm, so it is actually slightly wider, but not a huge amount. But personally, if I'm putting in an Olympus camera, I do like that 17mm lens. Basic thing, have a look at the prices on them. The 17mm aren't too expensive, but I like it. I don't think there's a huge difference. The only problem that you may get, Rob Trek did a thing a few years ago between using some of the Panasonic lenses on the Olympus. He was doing a video thing, and I think it was the 25mm f1.7, which isn't my favourite lens. I enjoyed it for a while, but there's a lot of shortcomings on that lens, and it was noticeably slower on the Olympus for focus on both stills and video, especially on video. So you might want to consider the 17mm on that. The easiest way, get yourself a good zoom, set one to 15mm, set one to 17mm, whichever you prefer visually, go for that one. That's how close they are. Lauren, can you imagine taking your Leica into the dodgy part of a city to photograph? If lucky you come back, I bet your camera doesn't. With street photography in the class of fine art, such as black and white. Yeah, that's one of the things I mentioned a few times, and it's one of the things when I've said when I've been to Cyprus, which has really quite shocked me, because I feel totally safe taking any camera out in the middle of Paphos. And if you recall, when I was there in March, I actually had it out about 1 o'clock in the morning with a tripod, set up there with lots of people around. Nobody bothered me. But there are places, an awful lot over here in the UK, that I would be loath to take even a cheap camera out at certain times of day. So if you're going to be doing something like that, something like a GM1 or a GM5 with an inexpensive, the 12 to 35 pancake zoom, I would be much happier taking something like that out. And if somebody came to me and accosted me for it, I'd give them the camera. Have that, just leave me alone, take that. So yeah, a Leica, I don't think I would there. It depends on the place, it depends on the people around you. I can see it for fine arts street, but not needed for telling a story, as in capturing the moment. Street photos, not needed to spend on a Leica. Yeah, in fact, some of those sort of capture the moments photographs, some of the best ones I've seen have been taken on some of the worst cameras, grainy, using, especially on the film days when you're shooting that, you're shooting on 1000 ASA Kodacolor gold, on an Ilford black and white monochrome, where you're pushing the film to its max speed wise just to get enough light in. But some of them have got such texture and such, I don't know, it's just something about them visually which you're not looking for perfection. It's the attitude, the build up and things. And you're right, you don't need the most fancy camera for that, and sometimes a poorer camera might give you just the shortfall you need to make it interesting. So yeah, totally agree with you. The problem with Leicas for me is they're very expensive in comparison to what you can get. But there is something mechanically and design-wise beautiful about them. To a degree, that's why I like the GX8. I find the GX8 with its style, there's something visually and aesthetically incredibly pleasing for me, which is why I keep on going on about that. Photographic-wise, it's nothing special. It was the first Lumix with 20 megapixel sensor. It had some shutter shock problems. It's got a few drawbacks on it. It doesn't have half the features of something like my G9, but I just love using it. There's something aesthetically pleasing and visually pleasing about it, and I think that's the thing with Leicas for me. And some of this, a lot of the vintage cameras, and again with something like we've said about the vintage cameras, this thing with the Nikon and things. I love this. It's 40 odd years old. It's my OM1, and if I take this battery, this auto wind off the bottom of it and get it back to the camera itself, there is just something aesthetically pleasing about an old-fashioned simple type camera, and I just enjoy using the old-fashioned simple type cameras. They're just nice. That's a word that's done to death quite a lot, but it is nice. I'm going to have a quick drink of water. But yeah, So again, using something like the Leica really is just nice. Get a Leica. I am here. Try me out. Contrail, good evening, Contrail. Haven't seen you on the sheet up to now. Oh, that's why. Hi, Brian. Shame I didn't catch you until the end of the stream, but nice to be here all the same. You can rewatch it again if you want to, because it stays up. I don't take the streams down. Some people have the streams automatically disappear afterwards. I leave them up because sometimes on the comments there's a minor information which people want to catch up on, like what have been happening with Visual Ghoul about the lenses and things. Really good conversation on that. I'll just put this back on again. But nice to be here all the same. Nice to have you on here as well, Contrail. Hope you and the missus are well, and hope to catch your next live a bit earlier. Yeah, we are well, actually. Well, for old age, I've still got my sort of diabetes and things which I'm coming to terms with, and I'm still overweight and I'm still an old fart, but I'm happy. Do you know what? I'm pretty happy about things generally, and there's an awful lot worse in the world than me, health-wise. So I can't complain. And it was sunny today, even if it did snow a little bit. It was sunny, and I always like being out in the sun. So thank you for that, Lauren. Leica is sharper, but on an Olympus the aperture ring will not work. Ah, right. The 15. We're talking about the 15 and 17 mil. Yeah, because I forgot. Do you know? I forgot that the 15 mil had the aperture ring on the front. Yeah, I believe the Leica is sharp, and I think it's something again Robin has alluded to. The 17 mil is not his favourite lens. I like it. He doesn't. That's fine. But I think one of the things on that is the sharpness, and certainly the sharpness as you get away from the centre. We talked right at the beginning about what defines a. Oh no, it wasn't. It was on a reply that I had to one of my videos. A comment I had on one of my videos. Went on about things being super sharp. The 12 to 100 being a super sharp little lens, but in comparison to my 14 to 140 where it's softer. What do I mean by sharp and things? And my comment on that was about sharpness insofar as sharpness changes. It's an interesting concept. Obviously, when you the camera will have a sweet spot about f4, f8, or whatever it is on the cameras, but when we're talking about sharpness, you can on micro four thirds lens you can usually get the middle really sharp, but it's how sharp it stays when you go to the extremes, the sides, the top, bottom, and the corners. So what I class as a really sharp lens, it tends to be sharp across the board. Now, obviously, if you're winding it open to a very wide aperture, very low aperture number, then you've got a much more difficult scenario to be able to get that sharp at the extremities, because the way that light works is it goes through a series of lenses. As you go to the very narrow apertures where you're talking about the high f-stops, obviously then you're getting things like diffraction come into it, and that can affect sharpness. But also, as I said on my answer to that, the idea of the fact that the cameras have profiles in, and the camera on things like my old Canons, it used to be a separate profile which you could apply in post, but micro four thirds it's applied in camera. So is the lens sharp, or is it just that the camera's managing to alter it to appear very, very sharp and alter the image and correct the image in camera before you ever see it? But also, is sharpness super essential? I look back at some of those photographs from the 30s and 40s which were very soft focused, but they had all the detail that you needed. And sometimes I think some of the older lenses that we have, especially when you're using some of these sort of adapter rings, you're sticking an old, I should do a video on that. I might do a video on that, putting legacy lenses onto micro four thirds. But yeah, sometimes some of those old Russian lenses which people seem to like, they can get, there's a particular softness to there which applying in post doesn't work so well, or putting modifiers on doesn't work so well. So it's interesting sharpness. I actually quite like lenses which aren't pin sharp. The good thing about a pin sharp lens is you have the ability to choose. If it's a soft lens, it's soft. But something like the 14-140 is softer. So something like the Leica where Lawrence just said, I'll bring that back up again. It is sharper. Is it vitally important to you? Only you can decide that. To some people it is important, super important. But yeah, it's interesting to forget about the aperture ring, because of course on a Lumix camera it does work. Yeah, you can still change the aperture on the camera the same way as you did with your thumb wheels, but just not on the lens. It's dead. DJI Wildlife. The EM1X, EM1 Mark III, EPL9, but my go-to macro setup is the EM10 Mark II with a 60mm macro lens. It's an awesome setup with a flip screen and not the articulating LCD screen. Big thoughts between those two. Photographers seem to like the flip screen. Videographers and hybrid shooters do tend to like the tilt swivel screen. I've used both. I can see the reasons for both. I tend to favour the tilt swivel screen. But yeah, the EM10 Mark II is an awesome little camera. It really is an awesome little camera. And used, they're holding their own. They're not silly cheap, but they're great. And that 60mm macro lens, I did a review on that a little while ago. I borrowed one from a colleague, Paul. I'm waiting to try the 90mm. I've got to get in touch with the OMSystem rep. So he said I might be able to try one of those. But that 60mm macro lens I really was impressed with. But love your G9 for wildlife. That's nice to hear, because it does get something of a pasting from a lot of wildlife photographers saying that the autofocus isn't up to the standard and things. But if you're using it, that gives me a lot of good faith in that, actually, because I do like my G9. No shutter shock on GX9 or GX85, only on previous models. Yeah, I think it's the technology had moved along quickly. When they realised there was an issue with shutter shock, I think they got onto it very quickly. How they got rid of it on the GX8, it was only happening at a certain range of speeds. So what they did is, on a firmware update, and I think only with certain lenses. So certainly with the 14-140, which is what I've got, when you put that on at certain speeds, certain individual speeds, when you selected that, it would go to electronic shutter rather than the mechanical shutter. Bit of a workaround, not ideal, because of course then you get all the sort of wobbly jello effects and things with electronic shutter. But yeah, it was a good workaround. It did work. And to tell you the truth, on my 14-140 on the front of my GX8, I very rarely notice any problems. I don't think it is up to date on its firmware. Could maybe do with a couple of updates, please. Lumix, do a nice little firmware update for the GX8. I know it's long in the tooth, and it wouldn't be a great deal of programming, just to put that nice red box, you know, the red box that you put onto the G9 and my little G100 to show it's recording. Can you do that for me, please? I really would like to see that, because my GX8, it's difficult to see when it's recording, and it's just nice. So if you can just do it, one more firmware update, just one. That's all I'm asking for. You don't need to go breaking the bank on it, but one more firmware update, just to put a nice red box instead of the red dot when it's recording. Thank you. You won't listen to me. FET, I too, like my GX8, a firmware update kind of patched the shutter shake. It did patch it, but it seems to work okay. Lauren, Olympus 45mm f1.8 is the bargain in the Olympus line. It certainly is superb if you're doing headshots and you're doing upper torso portrait work. It's fabulous. Not the best in that, because I do think the Panasonic 42.5 is better, but it's also a lot more costly. One super great portrait lens, which is compact, looks good, and is so very light in weight. It is a superb little lens. If I could move the green screen, I could get my little 45mm 37mm filter ring on the front. It's the lens cap's that size. I keep on losing lens caps. 37mm lens caps. I put down, I can't find them again. Same size lens cap as on the 12-32mm pancake zoom from Lumix. But it's so neat. It's so small. You hardly even notice it's there. I mean, the whole lens is tiny. It's there, and it's not much wider than a 37mm. But again, a really nice, clean, sharp lens across the board. It really does work. As I say, the Panasonic is slightly better. It's slightly sharper. It's slightly nicer image on it, but not a great deal. So yeah, we never did get this screen. We never did get the screen on the right hand side working. I wonder if just out of awkwardness. No, I'm not going to try it. We've got this going at the moment. DJI Wildlife. The bird tracking for me on the J9 is a win-win for me. Super accurate, fast with my dual IS with the PL 100 to 400. Doesn't miss a heartbeat. That's a great lens. Again, I borrowed one of those from my friend Paul. Again, it's a lens. If only I had the money, if only I was rich enough to buy all the things that I enjoy using. I'm not rich. Wish I was. So hence why I keep on asking for cups of coffee and things. It's how I get my fix of coffee. No, seriously, it's another one of those lenses I would love to own. There's a Mark II out as well, which Emily did a nice review on a while ago, and it really is a beautiful lens. Quite big, quite heavy in comparison to some of the others, but I really did enjoy using that. You can get them on the used market. For some reason, they never seem to come with the collar. And the collar on that, to me, is an essential thing, because when you put it on a tripod, it really does keep it balanced. I don't like putting it on, especially if I was using something like an EM5 Mark III or an EM5 Mark III or an OM5 with that plastic thing. We've said about that being a weak point. That is a big, heavy, long lens with a lot of turning moments around it. So the rings. So if you are selling one of these second hand to one of these places, please put the. I can't understand why you would leave the ring off to one side unless you've lost it. But the ring collar, which has got the tripod mount, the foot, please put it in with them, because I won't buy one without it. But it's a really good lens. I loved using that lens. I got some really nice shots from it. And again, as just been said, with the G9, the dual IS works a treat with it. It really does. So you can handhold it very, very well. Visual Ghoul, isn't there an Olympus 45 1.2 as well? Yes, there is. Considerably more expensive. I think it's about 4 times, 5 times the price, something like that. It is. It depends what you're going to be using it for. If you're, how do I put this? If you are a portrait photographer who wants super shallow depth of field, go for the 1.2. You need it. If you are going into places with very little light, go for the 1.2. You're getting an extra couple of stops. No, it's not even. It's about a stop. It's about one stop, if I can remember. I can never work this out in my head. Of light, I think it's 1.2. Yeah. So you are getting extra light on that. If you are doing general portrait work, or if you're not needing that super shallow depth of field, I tend not, even on my portrait work, I tend not to go super shallow. And you can, with a 45mm, it's quite a close-in lens. So the 45mm, if you position yourself, the ratio between yourself, your subject, and the background, you can get some super creamy out of focus. The bokeh in it is really nice there. If you bokeh balls. See, I'm Geordie bokeh. That's how you say it, bokeh, not bouquet or anything. Bokeh. So the bokeh balls are nice and clean and round and things, and very, very good for that. So the 45 1.8 in the majority of cases is going to give most portrait photographers just what they need. It's also a very, very good lens, but again the 1.2 will give you more light. If you're going off, if you're doing sort of taking photographs of bands, if you can get near the stage, sort of band shots are not too bad at that, because it makes it effectively a 90mm equivalent. Although if you're going to be doing something like that, the 56mm Sigma would be a nicer lens because it's a bit longer, and even better would be the 75mm f1.8 Olympus. Oh, it's gorgeous. That will really get you there, but that's a bit too long for doing portrait work. Depends what you're shooting it with. But yeah, there certainly is the 45 1.2, and as I say, absolutely fabulous lens. Lauren, 1.2 is heavy, expensive. It is heavy. That's a good point. It is a lot physically bigger. It's massive in comparison to the little one. In MF cameras, why not stay light, inexpensive, and portable? Couldn't have said it any better. Yep. Totally concur. Go for the go for that. 42.5 is the other option. Great lens, as Brian pointed out. Yeah, it is. That is slightly bigger as well, though. There's nothing I know of which is comparatively so small and usable and sharp and professional as that little 45mm Olympus. Everything else starts to get a bit bigger, starts to change a little bit. So yeah, there's no ideal lens to do everything for everyone. And this is why we have such we have a plethora of lenses in the Micro Four Thirds catalogue for us to use. We are so lucky in comparison to some of the other brands of cameras and some of the other formats of cameras. We have a huge amount of lenses, and there's been a lot of discussion about lenses tonight as to which lens is best and what do you do for that. It's so difficult to answer those questions, because unless you know what people are really going to specialize in, unless you know, and by specialize I mean shoot the most. It doesn't mean to say that you're a specialist in it, but the ones that you shoot the most. Unless you know that, it's difficult to get a direct answer. In some ways, for a huge amount of photographers out there, whatever level, you know, you're going to get fabulous results from the little 12 to 42 kit lens, which used to come the 3.5 to 5.6 or whatever they are. You're going to get some fantastic results with that. And I got some great results when I first started in Micro Four Thirds with the little Lumix 12 to 42. It's not the best lens in the world, but it did not give me an ability to shoot with a small lens with a good range and to have fun with the camera. And this is what I keep on harping on about. Having fun with the camera is 90%, maybe more, 99% of what makes me want to take photographs. If I don't have fun taking photographs, then it's not worth it. And this is the reason why if I do start the business up, which I think I probably will, if I restart the business up, it will be shooting the things I enjoy shooting, which is pop-up studio portraits. I don't want to be doing some of the other stuff which I might have been okay at, I might have got lots of money from, but it wasn't the thing. And I think whether you're pro or amateur, having that enjoyment in what you do, whether it's for a client's a client's specification or whether it's just for yourself, you've got to have that passion and that fun with it. And I think for me, it's difficult to really suggest a lens which is going to be the same for everybody. So these are recommendations based on best guesses of what's going to suit you. Lauren, Lumix 30mm macro is sharp edge to edge, will work with portrait too. It's f2.8, which is perfect. You want nose and ears both in focus, Yeah, it's one of the first school shoots we did was at an infant school, a primary school in the UK. And my partner and myself, we got the job because there'd been a previous photographer who'd gone in on one of these big companies who specialise in school shots. And we got called in because most of the parents had rejected the photographs which were presented. The head teacher had called my colleague in and said, listen, this is ridiculous. And when I went in there, I was given an example of a couple of photographs, and she said, they're out of focus. They're out of focus. The parents aren't happy at all. And I looked at the picture, and I said, no, they're not out of focus. If you have a look at the eyes, the closest eye is perfectly in focus. It is razor sharp. But these are mainly freelance photographers going into this company as an umbrella. So they were subcontracted through the company. And I could only put it down that they'd been watching a lot of YouTube videos which said about having super shallow depth of field is the way to take portraits, and super fantastic creamy bokeh behind. This is why I mentioned it before. And this is the way you shoot portraits. Well, of course it isn't. Portraits still have to portray the person properly. And what was happening, why these things looked so out of focus, they'd obviously used, I knew that they'd used a Nikon full frame camera. They'd used a really nice pro level lens, a 1.2 lens. Now remember, on a full frame camera, 1.2 is giving you a stop's worth of shallower depth of field in comparison to a Micro Four Thirds, so it was really shallow. And the eyes were beautifully in focus, but the tip of the nose was out. The earlobes were out of focus, so you had a focus of about an inch of depth of focus. And of course, everything looked out of focus to parents because it might be very artistic, but I didn't even find them artistic, because when you're using flat light, which a lot of the school photographs are very flat light from the front, you don't see any of the three-dimensional sort of side of things. And I think, and we got the job because basically I opened up my aperture to about f5.6, maybe 6.3 on my full frame camera, and took effectively the same shots, but they looked right. The background was still nicely out of focus to create separation. It may not have been quite as creamy, but it didn't matter. It created that separation. The subject was highlighted in it, and we got the contract. We sold a lot of photograph packs from that. So having the right camera, and as Lauren suggests there, you know, an f2.8 for most portrait work, for most head and shoulder portrait work, is beautiful. Maybe too shallow depth of field, even that. I would probably be opening it out from there. So Visual Ghoul, thank you for your advice, valuable advice. Thank you. You're welcome. And hopefully some of the advice some of my colleagues online who in the replies have done will be just as useful. Well, listen, people, thank you so much, because I always go away from these live streams buzzing because I've enjoyed talking to people. So thanks very much for coming online. I will let you know when I do my next live stream. I've got some more videos coming up. As I've said, I am going to be doing a couple of videos in the near future. I've got 3 in mind, which are, because I'm starting this up, following my use of a pop-up studio, because pop-up studios, going into people's houses, there are problems. So how do you overcome those problems? And but I'm going to be doing 3. One is looking at studio strobes. I have some nice studio strobes. The problems are associated with them. It takes a little bit of thought how you do these. As far as using speed lights, because speed lights for a pop-up studio are really, really good. And I've got a couple of nice speed lights. I'm using Godox based speed lights at the moment. The V1 I've got, and also Pixar Pro, which is a UK company who's a Godox reseller, but they also have their own branded versions of the Godox lights, which are a little bit less expensive and identical. Apart from that, they all match together and used in triggers and things like that. This is what I'm going to do. And also using the fantastic continuous LED lights that I've got from Zooin recently, because I'm really impressed with those. I'm going to be using those mainly through the Bones S mount, so I'm going to be using standard sort of modifiers and getting the same sort of, whoops, hopefully it didn't take your ears out, just hit the microphone. Sorry. And hopefully showing you how to get the same sort of effects and what the pros and cons of each are in a pop-up studio situation. Now, if you want to see those considerably before you see them on YouTube, then have a look in the details below, in the details thing for this, because they're going to be shown first to my upper level of Patreon patrons. So if you want to see them ahead of the pack, consider becoming a patron of the channel. And if you have not done it already, subscribe, and if you want to buy a coffee, you can. And thank you to the people who've given me some support in this tonight. I really do appreciate that. It does keep the channel going, and it does make things possible. So thanks, everyone. Oh, two more comments. Give the video a like. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Visual Ghoul. You've been superb actually tonight. Thank you, because you've really made this conversation go well. I appreciate that. And Lauren, thank you for a great live stream. Take care. Thank you for coming back on again, Lauren. It's always a pleasure to see your name when it comes up either in comments on the videos or on the live stream. But until the next time, this is a Micro Four Thirds guy. I can't do the thing with all my patrons because it just doesn't work on this. I'm going to try and work out a way to do that. So if I can get that to happen, then I'll get that done for the next live stream. But thank you to all the Patreon patrons I've got. I know some of you are online tonight, and I'll look forward to seeing you the next time. But until then, keep on taking your camera out and keep on having fun with your photography. See you. Bye-bye.